am honored on this Black History Special edition of Politics Nation to have with us the Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Kamala Harris. Madam Vice President, first of all, thank you for being with us for this.
Of course, Rev. It's good to be with you.
Let me ask you, what does Black History Month mean to you?
It means everything to me, including the fact that, Rev, as you know, this week we acknowledge the over 500,000 Americans who've died in just the last year. And, you know, part of what we must do as a nation, all of us, is recognize the loss and the grief. So many families who, because of the nature of this virus, weren't able to be with their loved one during their last days on Earth. And so when I think about the history and I think about what we then have a responsibility to do to carry the baton as our role in the ongoing history, I do think about this moment in the context of so much suffering and loss and how it has disproportionately impacted Black Americans. So there is that. I think about Black history knowing that I, for one, stand on very broad shoulders of all those who came before me, who imagined a day that there would be a Black woman to be Vice President of the United States. I think about Barbara Jordan. I think about Shirley Chisholm. I think about all of those great heroes who fought and knew that there would be this moment, but that when we receive the baton in this relay race of life, it is incumbent on us during the time we have it to lead with courage, to speak truth, and to do it in a way that uplifts people.
I want to get back to the COVID-19 issue that you raised, but let me first say and ask you this. About 2 years ago last week, you were running for president, and I took you to Sylvia's Restaurant, a world-famous soul food restaurant, and we sat in the same table, at the same table that I had sat with Barack Obama when he was running for president. You were running for president. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the issues that was of concern, from health care to education to policing and all. But you also talked a lot about history to me. You asked me a lot of questions about Shirley Chisholm, who I worked with when I was a kid. You asked me a lot about Reverend Jesse Jackson, helped mentor me in activism. So I know you had a keen sense of history and even my own journey. Who are the people that influenced Kamala Harris to be the Vice President of the United States? I mean, we know you, the Americans know you, but there must have been people that helped to guide you, whether you knew them or not, whether you studied them or not.
Absolutely.
Who was important to Kamala Harris as a Black historic figure?
One of the first was Thurgood Marshall. You know, I grew up, as you know, a child of the civil rights movement. My parents were active in the civil rights movement, and Thurgood, and together with Charles Hamilton Houston and Constance Baker Motley, they understood the power they had as attorneys, as lawyers, to translate the passion from the streets to the courtrooms of our country. They understood how they could challenge us to be true to the ideals behind the Constitution of the United States, and in that way fight for equality for all people. And they were heroes in my mind growing up, and that's why I wanted to be a lawyer. Because I believed that being a lawyer was a way that you could fight for justice and equality. And, you know, so Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan, I mean, those women who challenged notions of who holds political office and who could even run and think of themselves as occupying a seat in the White House. I mean, Shirley Chisholm, we're celebrating this year the 50th anniversary of the Congressional Black Caucus. Shirley Chisholm was one of the founders of the Congressional Black Caucus. She was unbought and unbossed. And the way that she carried herself with such dignity and strength and unapologetic role of leadership, those are some. And then there are others who you will not know their names, But in my mind, they are also part of Black history. People like Mrs. Regina Shelton, who, from Louisiana, who was my second mother, who helped raise us and who always taught me to have courage and to believe I could be anything I wanted to be and to never hear no. So there are so many. And I think that, Rev, when we think about Black history, we also have to remember in that way that Black history did not end in 1967.
Right.
And that there are all of these historical figures since then and those that are living now. I mean, I think of one who we just recently lost, but Cicely Tyson. Yeah. Right? And so when we remember and think of Black history, let's remember all of it, and then remember, again, that we who are part of their legacy have as our responsibility to think of our role at this moment on earth, being alive at this moment on earth, and what we will do to carry on the legacy around a commitment to justice and equality and fairness for all people.
You're not only the first woman vice president, first Black woman, first South Asian, South Pacific woman. You are also the first HBC graduate from Howard University, and you're the first AKA member. Dr. Glenda Glover, that heads AKA, told me, make sure you tell the world that she's AKA. How much of Howard University and HBCU, how much of that shaped you? Because we began in the last decade or so to see people, Black, come out of Ivy League schools. But to come out of HBCU, and you're sitting there in the ceremonial office of the White House as the Vice President of the United States. This is your first interview in that ceremonial office. Last night you had members of the Congressional Black Caucus. A sister with the A, not the ER, from Howard sitting there. How much of that, Howard and the AK, how much of that helped make you and who you are and where you are and how you sit there now?
There are two things that I attribute to who I am. One is the family in which I was raised, and the other is Howard University. And any graduate of an HBCU can tell you that what it means to, in those years when you become an adult, you know, those years of 18 through 24, where you are in a place where every signal you receive tells you that you belong, that you will be nurtured, that you will be challenged, and that you will be expected to do well and do well for others. You know, the Divine Nine. You know, I enjoyed talking about the Divine Nine when I accepted the nomination to be on the ticket, and I described, as I do feel, the Divine Nine as part of my family, right? And so I talked about family as the Divine Nine family, and reporters would say, well, what is the Divine Nine? And I thought, well, you're about to find out. Because what we are talking about is 9 sororities and fraternities, most of which were founded in the early 1900s for Black women and men who were in college, was about not only creating an environment in which they were nurtured, but also in charging us with living a life that was about service to community, service to others. And all of that informed in so many ways who I am.
Now, we are in the midst of a pandemic. We are disproportionately impacted in the Black community, but as you said, 500,000 people have died. And putting the politics aside, this is a real human crisis. And in the Black community, we've had the problem of hesitancy and questioning, and given a bad history, there's no reason why we wouldn't. But you've been that champion of trying to convince us, including people like me that were reluctant, and you're doing something specific. Tell us about Thursday.
So Thursday, I'm going to visit a pharmacy, which is one of the hundreds that we are directly getting vaccinations to get vaccines to, so folks can get vaccinated in their communities. So we have actually distributed 2 million vaccines to local pharmacies in communities. We're also getting at least 1 million vaccines to community health centers, those trusted places in the community where folks go for their health care. And the point, Rev, is this. I got vaccinated. I can tell you, first of all, that these vaccines are safe. It will save your life. There is a black woman, Dr. Kizzy Corbett, who was part of the team of scientists who created this vaccine, and it will save your life. Yes, we must speak truth about the history of medical testing in this country. We must be honest about the fact that people have a righteous skepticism about how it has been used, how it has been tested, and on whom it will be used. There is a righteous skepticism if you know history, but I promise you, and I am telling you, this vaccine is safe, and it will save your life and the lives of your family and your community, and we have it within our power to actually do that. So get your vaccination when it is your turn. It will save your life.
You know, as I said, I've been out there dealing with COVID-19 testing, but I was skeptical about the vaccine. But you've turned me around, you've talked to me, and while you're out there at the pharmacy, I got a couple of ministers, we're going to Harlem Hospital at the same time you're out there and get vaccinated, my first shot, because the vice president told me to do it. I think that
that's right.
That's part of what you bring to that office. And as we continue fighting on other things, voting and all of that, the first thing we have to do is be here and be alive.
But that's right, Reverend. Here's the thing. Let's not let COVID get us. Let's get the vaccine instead, right? Let's not let this thing get us. We know black people are disproportionately likely to contract the virus and die from it. We know when you look at who the frontline workers are, who have been most at risk, disproportionately we are talking about people of color. When you look at the fact that black small businesses, as many as I've seen, 40%, are going out of business or have gone out of business, it is disproportionately affecting us. And if we want to get control of this virus that is harming us at a disproportionate rate, part of it is to get vaccinated when it is our turn. Part of it is to wear your mask. I have my mask right here. To wear your mask all the time when you are around other people. 6 feet of distance. Wash your hands with warm or hot water and soap. Let's save our lives. That's what this is about. We're going to get beyond this. And part of what the president and I are offering as part of the relief is the American Rescue Plan to say, it can't only be on folks. It has to be all of us working together. So that's what everybody needs to do as an individual. Get the vaccine, wear a mask, social distancing, wash your hands. What we need to do is pass the American Rescue Plan so we can get those $1,400 checks to folks, so we can save our small businesses, so that we can pass the child tax credit, so that families can lift half of American children who are living in poverty out of poverty. Let's extend the unemployment benefits. Let's do all of these things, partnering together, so that we can get through this moment of crisis. Because I'm telling you, I have faith. I believe in our ability to get through this and to be better on the other side if we all work together to lift folks up and to lift ourselves up when we have the opportunity.
Let me ask you this last question. 50 years from now, Black History Month, they will look at this period, and even in the pandemic, we see an explosion of black women, a black woman vice president, but who also brought in black women.
Yeah.
Ashley Archenay, Simone Sand in the White House, Karine Jean-Pierre. You didn't come and leave folk out, brought folk with you. I see an explosion everywhere. Right at MSNBC, the first black woman president of a cable network. All of this happening. What do you hope they will say? You'll probably still be around in some smart pantsuit and some Converse sneakers, but I'll be gone. What do you hope they will say about Kamala Harris, the first black woman vice president of the United States, 50 years from now?
I hope and pray that for all of the names that you mentioned and all of us who are part of this, they will say they were great leaders, that they saw the people, and spoke to their needs and lifted us up, not only in terms of our human condition, but in terms of our spirit.
Well, Madam Vice President, we've known each other since you were DA in San Francisco.
Yes.
And you've always been straight and inspiring. And I'm very grateful
Thank you.
that you opened this special for us, because not only do we study Black history, because of you, we are continuing Black history and American history.
Thank you, Rev.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.